If you don't know what to do, just start by not doing what you know that you should not do. And I feel like the normal things that most people would agree with that you shouldn't do is probably drugs, vaping, pornography. I guess I'm kind of naming off things that were a problem in my life. And I was able to delete those things, to erase those things from my everyday life. And I feel like it's helped me in so many different ways. If you're someone that's dealing with, you know, regret of the last few years of your life, or maybe even your entire life, you look at your life and you're like, what have I really accomplished? What have I done that was great compared to what I've done that wasn't great? Or have I really accomplished anything meaningful that, if I were to, if I'm going to have to watch a movie of my life when I die, let's just say, theoretically that's what happens. Would I be satisfied with that movie? Would I feel accomplished? Would I feel, you know, happy with that, with my life? And I feel like nowadays most people would probably say no. And that kind of goes for all ages. I would say most likely people that are young, but in reality, like us that are young, in our 20s or even younger, even in our 30s too, like we theoretically have a second half of our life still to live. Like we don't know when we're going to die, but there's a good chance, okay, well, there's a chance that you can live till you're 80 or you're 75 or you're 70, right? And if we're 20 and we're looking at our lives and be like, man, if I die today, I wouldn't feel accomplished. Well, it makes sense that we feel this way because we're not really supposed to feel accomplished at this point. Like, we're not, you know, we're not supposed to. We're young. We haven't lived long enough on this planet to really accomplish a lot. And I do think that I always shit on social media, and I'm always going to because I don't like social media. I don't spend a lot of time on social media anymore because I know the algorithm of social media is meant to destroy me, to make me weaker and take control of me in a lot of ways, and that's why I just don't do it anymore. But I do feel like social media is a big reason why people feel so empty at times or feel so unaccomplished is because either they're spending too much time on it or they're seeing other people. You're seeing so many famous people and all this stuff that have all this accomplishment, and a lot of them are very young, and you feel like because they have that your life is worthless, that you have not accomplished what you should have, and that's just not true. It's just not. I hate that we live in a world now where it's like we have such easy access to seeing other people's lives. You know, like we have more access to knowing about someone that's on the other side of the planet than we ever have. Like in reality, most of human life, we had no way to interact with someone on the other side of this planet. Like I live in America. Well, there's no way for the majority of human history that I could interact easily, at least, with someone from, China. Like I guess I could mail them a letter if we're talking like the 1900s or 1800s, or whenever they really started doing letters on like a national, or like from different countries, whatever. It would probably take like fucking 2 months for that letter to get there, and then if they were to reply, it would take another 2 months for them to bring that letter back to me to read it. It's like nowadays it's like you can not only can you just interact with someone from a different country in a millisecond, pretty much. That's how it feels compared to history. But you can see like so many things about their lives by just viewing a profile on Facebook. Like you can learn like when they were born, when's their birthday, what high school they went to, all these things that were just not accessible easily without actually just sitting down and having a conversation with someone to learn about them. And because of that, it's just like we know too much about people's lives now, where we compare. It's so easy to compare ourselves to other people. And I just don't think that's a very healthy thing to do. So in reality, it's like, okay, what's another thing you could do or you could stop doing that you know you probably should stop doing? And I'll say, like, it's probably social media. Like, social media is just another thing that I feel like a lot of people would be much better off without. I know for myself, I feel like I'm much better off without it. I I really don't have any social media at the moment. I've had Instagram at times, and I'll kind of use it for a while, and then I won't use it. Detoxing is another thing. I haven't really done like a full detox myself, like how some of these tutorials on YouTube are. I guess in reality, I would say I have, but not maybe the way that a lot of people do it. And I know detoxing is kind of like just like completely cutting it out of your life for an extended period of time, maybe like a month. But for me, I just decided to just completely get it out of my life because I just feel like I'm better off without it. So social media is another thing I would just say, like, you know, it's probably something you'd be better off without having. So try living without it. It's not going to be easy because it's something you're so reliant on, especially because of dopamine. Like, dopamine is another thing that's just, it's always been a thing. We've always needed dopamine, but the way that we obtain this dopamine has changed rapidly in the last like 20 years. I guess you could say the last 50, but really the last like 20 years, maybe in the last 10. It's like a lot has changed. And, you know, and now we live in a world now where it's like there's more and more instant gratification, instant ways to get dopamine than there ever has been with food, with technology, with social media, with pornography, like all these things that are just so easily accessible than they ever have been. And it causes us to, get all this dopamine, but in reality, we're just giving up a lot of energy and dopamine that we could later get or have. It's just, it's bad. We live in a world now where there's just a lot of negative things that are just so easily accessible, and it sucks. It really does. However, I do truly believe, like, if you're able to recognize this, and you're able to it definitely takes a lot of time, but if you're able to recognize the things that you know that you probably should not be doing, and you stop doing said things, and you start finding things that you can do. Like, the premise of this video was that if you don't know what you shouldn't do, or I mean, no, sorry. If you don't know what you should do, just don't do the things that you know that you should not do. You know, Try to eliminate the things, the habits, the the addictions to things that you know overall are a bad thing for me. That's not positively affecting me on a daily basis, right? I feel like in a lot of ways it's like you're walking down a trail, but it's super foggy and you don't really know where you're going, but you're just walking because, you're just walking down a trail that you really can't see in front of you. But then when you start to get rid of the things that you know that you shouldn't be doing, right? And you start to it's like your brain's just full of fog. Like, people talk about brain fog. Once you stop doing the things that you know that you should not be doing, the fog starts to lift, and you start to be able to actually see where you're going. You're starting to have like a vision for the future as you're walking down this trail. And I feel like in a lot of ways, what that does is that allows you to have, allows you to go down different paths. You start to actually see, like, okay, if I go down this path, this might happen, or this is how this path looks. This path looks very bright. This path looks very dark. It's like it just opens up your mind more and allows you to try different things and allows you to experience different things, and it changes the path that you're walking down. I feel like if you're doing a lot of these things like drugs, pornography, and you know alcohol, like, in my opinion, I'd say 9 times, I don't know, 10 times out of 10, like, it's not going to lead down a light path. It's going to go down a dark path. And I feel like if you can just start to eliminate those things, or at least like have them be less of a reliance in your life, you'll be able to recognize what path you're walking down, and you can start to find the right path. Find the path that you want to go down. Not that you feel like you should or feel like you're kind of like, I don't know. It's hard to say with that, but it's just every day. Just try to put a little bit of effort into yourself, into changing the things that you know you shouldn't be doing, and start doing the things that you feel like you probably should be. It takes time, it takes effort, but over time, I feel like you can probably get there. So, with that, have a good day.